I sat in my parents' living room, surrounded by silence so thick it felt like drowning. My mother, father, and two brothers stared at me with eyes that no longer recognized their own son. Next to my mom stood Brianna, my 19-year-old cousin, tears streaming down her face as she told them I had assaulted her at last week's family barbecue. I was 26 years old, and in that moment, I watched my entire world shatter. Nobody believed me when I said it never happened. Nobody even asked for my side. Before I tell you how one lie destroyed everything I loved, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. And if you have ever been falsely accused of something, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story will show you that truth has a way of revealing itself when you least expect it. Now let me take you back to the night my world fell apart. Life before that accusation felt like everything I had worked for was finally coming together. I worked as a software engineer at a startup in Seattle, pulling decent money and building something I was proud of. Every weekend, my family would gather at my parents' house for dinner, laughter filling the rooms as we caught up on each other's lives. We were close, the kind of family that actually wanted to spend time together. Brianna was the daughter of my Aunt Helen, my mother's younger sister. She had just started college that fall, and she would often stop by my apartment to hang out, asking me about career advice or just venting about school stress. I treated her like a little sister, always made time when she needed someone to talk to. She seemed happy, always smiling, always grateful for the family she had. I had been dating Natasha for 2 years by then. She was an elementary school teacher with the kindest heart I had ever known. We talked about getting engaged that Christmas. I had already picked out the ring, a simple gold band with a small diamond that took me 3 months to save for. Everything was planned. Everything felt right. That Sunday afternoon in late September started like any other family gathering. My dad fired up the grill in the backyard, while my mom and Aunt Helen prepared sides in the kitchen. My older brother Marcus brought his wife and their baby daughter. My other brother Deshaun showed up with his girlfriend. The weather was perfect, one of those rare Seattle days where the sun actually stayed out and the temperature hit the low 70s. Brianna arrived with Aunt Helen around 2 in the afternoon. She wore jeans and a college sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She seemed totally normal, laughing at my dad's terrible jokes, playing with Marcus's baby, helping set the table. I remember talking to her briefly about her chemistry class, maybe 5 minutes total, before heading back outside to help my brothers with the grill. The whole afternoon, I stayed mostly in the backyard. Marcus and I took turns flipping burgers and hot dogs, while Deshaun handled the music. We drank beer, talked about football, argued about which teams would make the playoffs. Standard guy stuff. I went inside maybe once to grab more drinks from the fridge, and once to use the bathroom downstairs. Both times people were everywhere. The house was full. Around 8 that evening, Aunt Helen said they needed to head home because Brianna had homework to finish. Brianna hugged everyone goodbye, including me. She smiled, thanked my parents for the food, and left. Nothing seemed off. Nothing seemed wrong. I went home an hour later, kissed Natasha goodnight when I got back to my apartment, and went to sleep thinking about how lucky I was to have such a solid family. 2 days passed. Normal work days, normal evenings. Then on Tuesday night, my phone rang. My mother's name lit up the screen. Her voice sounded strange, cold, in a way I had never heard before. "Jamar, you need to come to the house right now." "What's wrong? Is Dad okay?" "Just come now." I drove there with my stomach twisted in knots, thinking maybe someone had died or gotten hurt. When I walked through the front door, I saw everyone sitting in the living room. My parents, both brothers, Aunt Helen and Brianna. The air felt heavy, suffocating. Brianna sat next to my mother, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. Aunt Helen stood up the second she saw me. Her face was red eyes swollen from crying. "How could you?" she screamed. "How could you do that to her?" I looked around, completely confused. "Do what? What are you talking about?" That is when Brianna lifted her head. Tears covered her cheeks. Her voice barely above a whisper as she spoke. "At the barbecue, you pulled me into the upstairs bathroom. You locked the door. You would not let me leave." My blood went cold. "What? You told me if I said anything you would hurt my mom. I was so scared. I could not tell anyone. But I cannot keep lying anymore. I have to tell the truth." The room started spinning. I looked at my mother, at my father, at my brothers. None of them looked at me with doubt. They looked at me with disgust. "That never happened," I said, my voice shaking. "Brianna, why are you saying this? I was outside the whole time. I never went upstairs. I barely even talked to you." "Do not lie to me," Aunt Helen shouted. "My daughter would not make this up. Why would she lie about something like this?" I turned to my mother, desperate. "Mom, you know me. You know I would never do something like that." But my mother just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "How can you stand there and deny it? Look at her. Look what you have done to her." Marcus stood up, his jaw clenched tight. "Get out of this house." "I did not do anything. I swear to God I did not do anything." Deshaun stood up, too, blocking the door. "You heard him. Get out. And do not ever come near Brianna again, or we will handle this ourselves." I looked at my father, my last hope. He sat in his chair, staring at the floor, saying nothing. His silence cut deeper than anyone's words. I left that night not just losing my family, but losing my identity. The person they looked at in that room was not me. It was a monster they created from a lie I could not fight. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages. None of them were supportive. Marcus had sent me a long message warning me to stay away from all family events, or he would make sure I regretted it. My mother blocked my number. Aunt Helen posted something vague on Facebook about protecting the innocent and exposing predators. And even though she never mentioned my name, everyone in our family knew exactly who she meant. The family group chat that used to share funny memes and dinner plans turned into a courtroom. Cousins I barely talked to started commenting, calling me disgusting, saying they always knew something was off about me. People I had known my entire life who came to my college graduation and celebrated my first job now treated me like trash. My uncle posted something about how men like me deserve to rot. Nobody asked for my side. Nobody cared about evidence. Brianna cried, so Brianna must be telling the truth. Natasha came over that Wednesday evening. I told her everything, showed her the messages, explained that I never went near Brianna that day. She listened quietly, her face unreadable. "Your whole family believes her," she finally said, "because they are wrong. Natasha, you know me. You know I would never do something like that." She looked away. "I want to believe you. But if your own mother does not believe you, if your brothers do not believe you, then how can I be sure? Because you know me better than anyone." She stood up, grabbed her purse. "I need time to think." A week later, she came back. She handed me the engagement ring I had bought still in its box and told me she could not marry someone her gut told her to question. She said she was sorry, but she had to protect herself. I watched her walk out of my apartment, taking with her the last piece of my future I had left. Work became another nightmare. Brianna never filed a police report. She told Aunt Helen she just wanted me to admit what I did, and apologize that she did not want to involve the law and make everything worse. But the whispers spread anyway. Seattle's Black community is tight-knit, and word travels fast. Someone who knew my family mentioned it at a networking event. My boss, a white guy in his 50s, who always seemed uncomfortable around conversations about race, called me into his office. "I heard there is some family trouble going on," he said carefully. "It is a misunderstanding, a false accusation. I did not do what they are saying." He nodded slowly. "I am not here to judge, but we need to make sure this does not affect the company's reputation. We will monitor the situation." Monitor the situation. Corporate speak for, "We are watching you, and if this gets worse, you are gone." I spent the next 3 months trying to prove my innocence. I hired a lawyer named Mr. Patterson, a black man in his 60s, who specialized in defamation cases. He listened to everything, took notes, and then leaned back in his chair. "Without a police report, there is no criminal case. She is not suing you, so there is no civil case. Legally, you have not been charged with anything. But the damage to your reputation is real, and there is not much we can do about it unless she publicly recants her statement. So I just have to live with everyone thinking I am a rapist." Unfortunately, yes. Unless you can prove she is lying, which is nearly impossible without evidence. I checked my parents' home security footage, but their cameras only covered the front yard and driveway. Nothing showed the inside of the house. I reached out to people who were at the barbecue, asking if anyone remembered seeing me go upstairs or spend time alone with Brianna. A few people confirmed I was mostly outside, but nobody could swear I never went inside for more than a minute or two. Memories are blurry. People were drinking. Nobody paid that much attention. Brianna stuck to her story. She cried in front of anyone who would listen. She told them I threatened her family, that I made her feel worthless, that she feared for her life. And because she was 19 and I was 26, because she was the victim and I was the accused, everyone believed her without question. Thanksgiving that year, I spent alone in my apartment eating Chinese takeout and watching football by myself. I saw photos on Instagram of my family gathered around the table, smiling, happy, whole. Brianna sat right next to my mother. Christmas was the same. New Year's Eve, I sat on my couch at midnight watching the ball drop on TV, feeling like the loneliest person in the world. Work got worse. The whispers never stopped. Colleagues avoided me in the break room. Nobody invited me to after-work happy hours anymore. 6 months after the accusation, I quit and found a job at a smaller company across town, starting over with people who did not know my story. I started seeing a therapist, a woman named Dr. Kim, who specialized in trauma. She helped me process the anger, the grief, the feeling that my entire identity had been stolen. She taught me breathing exercises for the panic attacks that started hitting me at random times. She reminded me that I knew the truth even if nobody else believed it. But knowing the truth did not make the pain go away. Every birthday, every holiday, every family milestone happened without me. I saw photos of my niece's first steps, Marcus's promotion at work, Deshawn's engagement. I was erased from their lives like I never existed. 3 years passed like that. 3 years of isolation. 3 years of wondering if I would ever get my life back. 3 years of holding on to one fragile hope that someday, somehow, the truth would come out. On a Saturday night in October, 3 years after the accusation, my phone rang. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. I stared at it, debating whether to answer. We had not spoken since that terrible night. Finally, curiosity won. "Hello, Jamar." His voice sounded strained, almost breaking. I need to talk to you. It is about Brianna. My heart started pounding. What about her? Can you meet me tomorrow morning? The coffee shop on Pine Street. Please. I agreed, hung up and spent the entire night unable to sleep. What could have happened? Why would Marcus call me after 3 years of silence? The next morning, I arrived at the coffee shop at 9. Marcus was already there, sitting in a corner booth, looking like he had not slept either. I sat down across from him, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Brianna was in a car accident last week, he finally said. Nothing too serious, but she hit her head pretty hard. Minor concussion. They kept her overnight at the hospital for observation. Okay, I said slowly, not understanding why this involved me. Marcus rubbed his face. When she woke up, she was confused, disoriented. The doctor said that is normal with concussions. But she started talking, saying things that did not make sense. What kind of things? She kept saying something about that night, the barbecue. But her story was different. She said I had to say it was him. Jake told me to. I felt like someone punched me in the chest. Who is Jake? That is what Aunt Helen asked. Brianna kept rambling. She said Jake said if I did not do it, he would leave me. I was scared. Then she fell back asleep. Marcus pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. On the screen was a series of text messages. After Brianna fell asleep, Aunt Helen started going through her things. Old laptop, old phone records. She found these messages between Brianna and some guy named Jake from 3 years ago, right before the barbecue. I read the messages, my hands shaking. Jake was furious at Brianna for refusing to steal money from Aunt Helen to give to him. He threatened to release intimate photos of her if she did not help him. Then the conversation shifted. Jake suggested that Brianna needed to create a distraction, make the family focus on someone else's problems, instead of questioning her relationship with him. Your cousin is always showing off his perfect life, Jake had written. What if something happened to him? What if everyone was too busy dealing with that to worry about us? Brianna had resisted at first, but Jake pushed harder. He coached her on exactly what to say, how to cry, how to make it believable. He told her to wait a few days so it did not look suspicious. He promised if she did this one thing, he would never ask for anything else again. The final message made me sick. Just stick to the story. Nobody will believe him over you. You are the victim. He is the predator. This is easy. I looked up at Marcus, unable to speak. There is more, he said. Aunt Helen and I confronted Brianna after she recovered. At first, she denied everything. But when we showed her the messages, she broke down. She admitted it. All of it. Jake manipulated her, threatened her, controlled her. She was terrified of him, but she also knew what she was doing was wrong. She just could not stop it. And after it was done, after everyone believed her, she felt trapped. She could not take it back without admitting she lied. I felt 3 years of pain, anger, and betrayal crash over me all at once. She destroyed my life. I know, Marcus whispered. I know, and I am so sorry. 2 days later, Marcus organized a family meeting. He called everyone to my parents' house, the same living room where my life had ended 3 years earlier. This time, when I walked through that door, Brianna stood in the center of the room with Aunt Helen beside her. Everyone sat down. My mother, my father, Deshaun, and his now wife Marcus and his family. They all looked confused, worried. Then Brianna started talking. She told them everything. The truth about Jake, the threats, the manipulation. She explained how scared she had been, how trapped she felt. but she also took responsibility for her choice. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Jamar. I destroyed your life because I was too weak to stand up to someone who was hurting me. I thought I could take it back later, but the longer it went on, the harder it became. I have lived with this guilt every single day, and I know sorry will never be enough. But you deserve to know the truth. Everyone deserves to know the truth." The room fell silent. My mother covered her mouth with both hands, sobbing. My father sat frozen, staring at nothing. Deshaun punched the wall behind him, leaving a dent in the drywall. Marcus just put his head in his hands. My mother stood up slowly and walked toward me. She wrapped her arms around me, crying into my shoulder. "I should have believed you," she whispered. "I should have listened. I am so sorry, baby. I am so sorry." My father joined her, pulling me into a hug. For the first time in 3 years, I felt my parents' arms around me. It should have felt like relief, but mostly it just felt like grief for all the time we lost. I looked at Brianna. She stood there small and broken, waiting for me to say something. Part of me wanted to scream at her to unleash 3 years of rage, but another part of me just felt tired. "You took 3 years of my life," I said quietly. 3 years I can never get back. You destroyed my relationship with Natasha. You ruined my reputation. You made me question my own worth. And the worst part is you let me suffer knowing the truth the entire time. "I know," she whispered. "Sorry does not fix what you broke. But I hope you learn from this. I hope you get help. And I hope you never do this to anyone else." She nodded, unable to speak. Aunt Helen stepped forward. "We have reported Jake to the police. He is facing charges for extortion and distribution of intimate images. Brianna is cooperating fully. And we are going to make this right, Jamar. We are going to tell everyone what really happened." Over the next few weeks, my family worked to repair what Brianna had destroyed. They organized a gathering and invited everyone who had been at the original barbecue, everyone who had condemned me. They posted a public statement on social media explaining that Brianna had lied, that I was innocent, and that they owed me an apology. Some people reached out immediately, embarrassed and ashamed. Others never said anything at all. A few former friends sent messages saying they always had doubts, but felt pressured to take Brianna's side. Their words felt hollow. Marcus and Deshaun started showing up at my apartment every Sunday, trying to rebuild what we lost. My mother called me every morning just to hear my voice. My father bought me the watch he had promised to give me for my 30th birthday, the one I never got because I was not invited to the party. But healing is not instant. Trust once broken does not glue back together perfectly. I still kept my distance, still felt the weight of those 3 years every time I looked at them. They understood. They gave me space while making it clear they were not going anywhere. I found solace in new routines. I joined a support group for people who had been falsely accused, and hearing their stories helped me realize I was not alone. I started volunteering at a legal aid clinic that helped others fight false allegations. Turning my pain into purpose gave me something to hold on to. Brianna entered therapy to deal with the trauma Jake inflicted on her and to understand why she made the choices she did. Aunt Helen made sure she faced the consequences not just legally, but emotionally. It was not my job to forgive her, and I made that clear. Forgiveness is earned, not given freely, just because someone finally tells the truth. Slowly, piece by piece, I rebuilt my life. Not the same life I had before because that life was gone forever. But a new life, one built on the foundation of knowing I survived something that could have destroyed me completely. Looking back now, I understand that some scars never fully heal, I still flinch when someone mentions family gatherings. I still feel a tightness in my chest when I hear about false accusations on the news. I still wonder sometimes what my life would look like if Natasha had believed me, if my family had asked questions before choosing sides. But I also learned something valuable through all that pain. Truth does not need to shout to be heard. It just needs time. Lies crumble eventually under their own weight. Justice might move slowly, but it moves. And the strength you find in surviving betrayal becomes a part of who you are, something nobody can ever take away. Brianna made a choice that destroyed me, but she also made a mistake that exposed everything. And in that mistake, I found my freedom. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where the truth took years to come out? Have you ever had to fight for your innocence when everyone believed a lie? Drop your story in the comments. If this resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel to hear more real stories like this one. Share this with someone who needs to know that truth always finds a way, even when hope feels lost. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that no matter how dark things get, you are stronger than you know. Take care of yourselves and remember that your truth matters.